How you guys doing? Welcome to episode 828. This is part 2 of our coverage of the latest in the Mongols RICO trial, their motion to vacate. If you haven't seen part 1, make sure you look right over there, wherever it is over here on the screen to go ahead and check out that video. In that one, you can download the transcripts that I was going off in that video. And in this one, you can download it in the description below. We'll have both files there for you to go ahead and download to get yourself into the mix. Now, we're going to be going over the testimony of BOWTIE STUBBS. Now, for those that don't know, that is the lawyer at the time for the Mongols during the RICO trial. A lot of people within the motorcycle club community know him. He's very honest and he's forthright, and he does a lot for motorcycle club rights. So it's very important to hear what he has to say about all this. He was, how can you say, left behind, if you will, in a lot of stuff, because people are going to come out and say, well, wasn't that on him on American Cholo saying this and that? Well, when you do not have all the information until later, of course you're going to go with your, feeling about what the situation is at the moment, if we'll say that. It wasn't until afterwards he really got the information. And you're going to see that in the testimony that he has. Also, there is a guy named Rocha. Now, who's Rocha? Well, he was a Mexican mafia informant. He turned on him. And he was being worked by, federal agencies, stuff like that. State, I think it was, actually. But whatever, he was working with the cops. Well, he was involved in a sit-down with LiL Dave. And at that sit-down, they were talking about an extortion scheme. He was recalled at this trial, and if you download the transcripts, you'll see it. He answered everything. He pleads the fifth. Even though he's in witness protection program and he already freaking, ratted on the MA. But there's if you don't have an immunity agreement in place, yeah, the guy's going to go ahead and plead the Fifth Amendment. So that's very interesting there. And I'm interested to find out if they do have an immunity agreement where it would allow him to testify about that incident that involved him and LiL Dave. Because in Judge Wu's courtroom, there is a protective order on everything that's going on with that case, because it's a big case, man. We're talking a lot of MA. But a lot of interesting stuff has been coming out of that one. The first being yesterday we covered where John is mixing his words, man. He's mixing it up, saying, he didn't recall this, he didn't recall that. He didn't recall if LiL Dave was set up as a CI in 2005. It could have been. He's playing word salad. He's in a very messed up position right now. I got to say that. Because the next day, the judge wants a yes or no answer from him. He don't want to hear, I don't recall this, I don't recall that. No. This judge ain't playing with him. He wants a yes or a no. So we're going to see how that plays out. And there's other avenues that might be opening up in my mind. In my opinions, okay? My opinions. If those that don't know, and it's going to be talked about in this testimony, the Mongols, and it surprised the judge as well, were missing a lot of money. A lot of money. And you'll actually see the numbers. The judge was pissed because he could have fined them more money. But could it be that there was some sharing going on, if you know what I mean, between you know, said person and said person. Who knows? We're going to get into the testimony of what we do know from BOWTIE. All right, here we go. This is where it starts out. You know, in the beginning, the first 39 pages was Rocha and the pleading the fifth with questions, them trying to find out if there wasn't any immunity agreements, all that good stuff. So I'm going to skip down the BOWTIE stuff. Again, you can download in the description box both files. By Mr. YANNY, that is the Mongols attorney right now. Did you observe Dave speaking with John Ciccone before the trial? Why is it so important to know if Dave was talking with John before the trial? Why is this all happening in the first place? The reason it's happening is you cannot have somebody leading a defense or being active in a defense strategy in a case of this magnitude where they are working or cooperating with the government. You cannot have that happening. So that is one of the biggest things that is getting, this whole thing is based on that premise that little Dave was too comfortable with this cop, or he was an informant, a rat snake, whatever you want to say. And this right here, the testimony that BOWTIE gives, really puts the nail in the coffin in my eyes because of what was said yesterday, how the ATF John Ciccone changed everything around real quick, and now this. Again, did you observe Dave speaking with John Ciccone before the trial? BOWTIE says yes, twice. And was he alone? He insisted on being alone both times. Now, it's been Dave's testimony that he always had somebody with him, a member of the club or somebody that could vouch for him. But what BOWTIE is saying right here is he insisted on being alone. It gets better, trust me. Now the judge goes and says, you personally observed David Ciccone speaking, or you can call him Chameleon, whatever, with Agent Ciccone before the trial. Because right after that answer, the judge steps right in this. You personally observed him speaking with the agent before the trial. He goes, yes, twice. The court, in this courthouse, that was during the trial. Those were two separate times. Oh, so there's more. There's more. Now, it goes on to say, because they bantered back and forth about where, blah, 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 blah. When you said he insisted on speaking with him alone privately, he goes, the court wants to know about it. So BOWTIE goes, okay, so at the Palm Springs in September of 2018, we were out in front of the hotel where the cars were coming, and Ciccone was in his car with his window rolled down, and he beckoned for Dave to come and talk to him. Dave went, and then naturally, I started going with him, and he told me not to. This is your attorney. This whole time, he was telling everybody I always had somebody with me when I talked to him. So you have an attorney, perfect thing right there. Come on, man, let's go, let's go, let's go. Come with me. Because this is the attorney. He tells him, no, I got this. He said that he had it handled, and then he went to Ciccone's car to speak to him alone. The court goes, and this is in Las Vegas or Palm Springs. You know, the judge having a hard time following around here. Yes, that would be September of 2018. The court says, were there any other Mongol members of the Mongols with David when you testified you saw this conversation take place? Yes. Yes. Court, when he went over to speak with Agent Ciccone? Not when he was speaking with him. So not only did the attorney not go, the members didn't go either. So your answer is no. No, thank you. They were with him before he left them to go speak to him alone. Why in the world, after all this time of him pushing that he was never alone with them, this guy, it comes out later that, oh yeah, you were alone with this guy and there was members around, but you didn't want them to be there. It would have raised my eyebrows in a heartbeat if I was there. Anyway, now, let's see here. When they went back and forth, were the other members there? When he spoke to the agent, what's your answer? Absolutely not. There was nobody else there. Absolutely not. That's just one incident. Now, in your very first meeting with David, did he mention to you anything about having met with John Ciccone before trial every morning? This is during the RICO trial. This question was asked to BOWTIE, the Mongols attorney who's on the stand now. In your very first meeting with David, did he mention to you anything about having met with John Ciccone before trial every morning? Now remember, he claims it only happened once and in passing. Remember that. It only happened once and within passing. Getting weird, ain't it? Getting very weird. He answers, yes. We were at Starbucks, and Mr. Ciccone came into the Starbucks, and then Dave told me that they had been meeting every day at Starbucks before trial until Judge Carter told them not to because a juror saw them together. I thought it was only one time. One time. And it was just in passing. But not according to BOWTIE. He was told, yes, we were at the Starbucks, and Mr. Ciccone came into the Starbucks, and then Dave told me that they had been meeting every day. Why would you have to meet with this cop every day during a trial that he's trying to take you down at? That's the first question that comes to my mind. Why? Now, the court wants it repeated back. I'm going to repeat back to you so I'm absolutely certain. David Ciccone told you that he had a meeting at Starbucks every day. The witness, which is BOWTIE, says every day is what he said. And then the court, until the judge told him not to. Yes. He was meeting with them every day during a trial where the Mongols were fighting for their trademark. And fighting to avoid a civil RICO conviction. Or it could have been a criminal one. I don't know. But, because nobody got arrested, so it has to be a civil one. Anyway. They were fighting for their club. And I'd have to say everybody else. But he's meeting with them at Starbucks every morning? But he claims it was only once. Now, let's go further. And in your statement explicitly, and I want to be absolutely certain of this, Ciccone tells you that he's meeting every morning with Ciccone until this court intervened and said this is called to the court's attention. Okay. The witness, which is BOWTIE, in fact, he's the one that recounted it to me what you had told them. Because you got to remember, they were brought back in the judge's chambers. He told them what the hell was going on. Because I didn't have that information, and he specifically said that you had a problem because he was meeting there every day. He used the word every day. See what goes on behind closed doors, do you not? See how the plot thickens. Because that's one of the problem with people. They either don't have all the information, the inside information, or any information at all, and they want to go out there like know-it-alls. Like a lot of these people that were right off the bat defending him after he appeared on a couple programs. Well, wait, you didn't know what was going on. Don't you feel like schmucks now? Anyway, again, what's that matter if he did? You cannot be leading the defense or be a part of the defense strategy if you're fucking around with these cops. Now, as a matter of fact, and this is Yanny asking him, Stephen, wasn't it I who had originally asked you to be the co-counsel on the case? Now they're getting into the case setup. That is correct. What? Yes, thank you. And then the court, that's very helpful to me. I appreciate that. Because Dave was spinning a web. Now, Mr. Yanny, did you witness David Ciccone talking with Ciccone by himself during the trial? Twice, he says. And then he was asked to elaborate. There was 2 times when the lawyers were asked to stay for some reason. I don't remember when. And Mr. Ciccone and Dave could leave while the lawyers were dealing with whatever issues we were dealing with. One time was outside, directly outside the doors of the courtroom, and the other time was downstairs close to where the security is and the metal detectors. And I have to bring up a question here. He was saying, well, the last time I talked to John, it was about recovering some club property, blah, 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 blah. Well, wait a second. You were talking to him at Starbucks every frickin' day. During the trial, you were talking to him by yourself in other locations. And now you're talking to him outside the courtroom doors and by a metal detector. Which one is it? Okay, I walked out. They were having a discussion together. And both times when I got close, underline, and both times when I got close, they stopped talking about that and changed the subject. You know how when you walk up to somebody, it seems like they're into some conversation, whoop, it changes right away? Yeah, right there. Whatever they were talking about, I don't know. What degree of control did Dave Ciccone exercise over trial strategy and tactics? Huge question. Huge. He was adamant that it was the buck ended with him. He was going to control who the witnesses were and what was going to happen. There's your answer to all the naysayers. Why does it matter even if he was a CI? There you go, right there. That's why it matters. He was going to control the witnesses. Going down more. Sir, did you and Dave correspond about him testifying and John Ciccone being called to the stand? Answer, oh, a lot. That was a main conflict in the case. The main conflict. I wanted to call John Ciccone and David Centillion to the stand. Did I not? That's coming from Joe. And he comes back, I did too, yes. And David was adamant against either. David was adamant that both he and Ciccone were not to be called to the stand. Answer, he wouldn't even hear it. Wouldn't even hear it. Why? That's a major part of the defense strategy. To get this guy on the stand who's been messing with you for over 20 years. We tried so many times to convince him. He's like, no, you're not going to do it. And then at one point, he said the mother chapter voted on it, and the mother chapter voted that we are not to do it, and there would be repercussions against us if we did. He just threatened them. Threatened his own lawyers, the club's own lawyers. He threatens if they call him or the cop to the stand. Now, did David ever veer from his position that neither were to be called? No. From the very start, Dave was insistent he would not testify and Ciccone would not testify. Let's put the ATF dude on the side here. If you're leading a case as an international president, why wouldn't you let this guy be called? Unless there's something suspicious happening. Again, I remind you that BOWTIE testified that Dave was meeting this guy in Starbucks every morning. Where Dave only said, it happened once in passing. Lied, liar on pants on fire. See, that's the problem. When you start telling too many lies, you can't keep up with it. Especially, and I see this all the time. When I'll interview somebody, then they'll go on another show, and then another show. And the lies, once they start telling them, oh my God, they blow up. It's like they can't remember what the hell they say. And that's what's going on here. Now, let's keep on going. Let's keep on going because there's gibbler joblish in the middle of this. Okay. Where are we at here? Okay, here it is. There's also levels of his objections. I mean, we were threatened by Dave. He threatened them. This is BOWTIE come out and say, hey, he was threatened. And this could also go to another thing with that American Cholo interview. He was threatened by the international president of the Mongols Motorcycle Club during this case. So what if he had, some feelings come up if he didn't go out there to try to help this guy on that call? That's just another scenario. There's two scenarios. He didn't know all the information or he was threatened because it already happened. And it wasn't until this court date, over a year later after showing up on that program, that we now find out that he was threatened by Dave. Because you got to ask yourself one thing, though. And I ask this over and over again, and I don't know if people actually get it. Why did little Dave, as a supposed biker, go on all of these Chicano programs? And nothing against them. I love American Cholo. I love, Gunners Collective, all them guys. I really love their programs. Good stuff. But why didn't they come on a biker program that would have a direct shot at the audience he wanted them to hear? Think about that. He literally told us that if we called him, there would be repercussions, and he didn't say what those were. We all know. But Dave threatened us if we called him or Ciccone to the stand. You got to remember, everybody's looking at this as far as the United States is concerned. He was an international president, which means that there could be repercussions out in Australia, if they're up in Europe, wherever their Mongols are at outside this country, there could be some stuff. He was an international. This just ain't a local matter, man. This is no joke. But here he is threatening his own lawyers. Why? Because he don't want to be called to the stand, and he does not want the ATF brought in on the stand. Now, if you want to throw in the bones, hey, he's doing what he's supposed to not testify, fine. Fine. But what about the agent that's been after them for 20 years? Why don't you want him on there? Is this something that you guys were discussing at Starbucks every day? Because I can tell you it wasn't about what the movies were that night. Now, the court, did he give you a reason as the representative of the Mongols, their president, why he did not or was not willing to be called to the witness stand? And here it comes. The answer, his reasons was because he's in charge. That's what he said over and over again. And then he reinforced that by saying that the mother chapter voted and all of us agree you are not to call either one of us to the stand. Very interesting coming up here. He's trying to use the mother chapter as cover for him threatening them that they can't be coming to the stand. Do you know of any vote by the mother chapter? Answer, I don't believe it happened, so no. Okay, I believed he lied. Now Yanny comes back and says, so you found out at some point in time, you found out that there was no vote of mother chapter about calling David or Mr. Ciccone. Yes. There was never no vote. He lied. What do you think the mother chapter would have done? I think they would have said, put the suckers on the stand. Because here we are, all at risk of a big fine. And you'll say, well, it's the Mongols, not individuals that... No, who the hell are you kidding? If there's a fine in a club that has to be paid, the members have to pay it. Meaning your dues go up. So he was lying about the meeting. Now, Yanny goes and says, Mr. Ciccone could have given us testimony, adverse though it may be, about every factual predicate in the indictment. Is that correct? He's the only person we knew about that had knowledge about every part of it, every part of the case. Remember, RICO needs predicates. This guy's been after them since the early 2000s. But Dave didn't want his ass being called whatsoever. And again, could it go back to the incident where he was caught by a CI in another case with an extortion scheme? See all the variables coming here? Question that, and was that not explained to David? Oh, that and much more. You explained a lot of things to David. A lot of things. See, David's attitude towards Joe is because Joe was working hard on behalf of the Mongols. And Joe was the one that could have really hurt little Dave by putting him on the stand. So thus, just like he did to Bobby D. Everybody was screaming earlier on until they started learning all the info because he wanted to blame somebody else to get the spotlight off of him. So he threw Bobby D under the bus. Well, I got paperwork that he spoke to the IRS agents. He's got a fucking business, you idiot. He's got to. It's all business related. Even the guy that you were claiming that he turned on even came and said, no, he didn't. You were trying to push blame somewhere else. Same thing you're doing with Joe Yanni right now. You're trying to put blame on him. You're always talking about taking your medicine. I really don't know if you believe that you'll ever be able to take your medicine because you don't know which way you're going here. You're using, word salad crap. Exactly what you're doing to try to convince everybody you're the poor soul. You were messed with. And this, there, gentlemen and ladies, is why clubs are not gangs. If you get my hint. We did explain to him, did we not, that the conviction of the organization could potentially be used against individuals in future cases. Meaning, this conviction right here for future members of the club could be used against them. Brothers! Yes. What did he respond to the best of your recollection? Here they are telling them that if we lose this case, it could be held against others in the future. And what he says? He didn't care. He didn't care if something like this could be used against his future brothers. What kind of brotherhood is that? That right there should scare every damn Mongol around about this guy. He didn't care about you. You were expendable. Expendable to him. There should be no doubt whatsoever that he didn't give a crap about you as long as what he wanted, he got. So it goes on for another question. He didn't care if somebody in the club gets arrested if they can face a gang enhancement because of the conviction against the club. Answer, his words were, I don't care. So yes, that would include that too. He didn't care. Didn't care whatsoever. Now, there was a backroom brawl, it seems like. It happened in an attorney room. This is what went down. He was adamant and Joe was adamant, and I was trying to calm everybody down. And at one point, this ended the argument. He said, Mother Chapter had a vote. No, they didn't. Everyone agrees with me. We're not calling, and if you do, there will be repercussions. So he threatened them again. And at that point, we said, okay, and it was immediately before we have called Ciccone. And the judge comes back and says, okay, so it's at the very last portion of the case, because Ciccone, it represented to me, would be literally the last or close to the very last witness. And he said yes. The judge asked very point blank, is this the point in time that you were threatened? Yes. Who threatens their fucking attorneys? And that's when this is heating up. This final push on your part or Mr. Yanni's part to persuade David Centillion it's in the best interest to call Ciccone to the stand. He goes, yes. Now, he goes and asks who else was back there, and a lot of other people were back there. Was in fact some kind of vote taken? He was asking if there was a vote taken by the mother chapter about him and Ciccone taking a stand. Absolutely not. Was there unanimity against you, Mr. Yanni, Andrea, or whoever this other attorney is in advising Ciccone to take the stand? That you wanted Ciccone to testify? And he goes and says the other two attorneys didn't participate in these conversations. They were there. It was mostly Yanny and Dave going against each other. And when I was trying to be calm, trying to calm everybody down, and I was calmly trying to convince Dave that it was in their best interest, while Mr. Yanni was not calmly trying to convince him. So BOWTIE was in there trying to play, middleman and stuff like that. Now, he goes on to talk about the video. And the court asks, where do I find that? In other words, do I have a narcotic person who having an affair trying to make up with his wife and protect me? He's going through the scenario. And BOWTIE says, I actually believe it's that, and I believe that the protect me referred to. Then the court steps in. I know what you believe. Now I need proof. Tell me where I get that, because ATF is going to come in here and swear up and down that there's no agreement. Yet we got a phone call out there that's interesting. And he comes back, and this is his theory. I believe the protect me had to do with protect against the Mongols because he had embezzled so much money. You got to remember, BOWTIE, he also has an accounting degree. Audit stuff. Okay. The court goes, and it's an opinion, and there could be a motion to strike, but let's walk down that path. If he had embezzled money from the Mongols, and this is the first time I've heard of it, he never heard of this before. If he had embezzled money from the Mongols and the Mongols knew about that, let's just say the repercussions might be dramatic. Why would he be made president of the Mongols? In other words, if he's embezzled money, to test this for a moment, why would he be willing to continue on? I mean, even be in the local as president of the Mongols. And it's very simple, BOWTIE says. Because the Mongols didn't know at the time that he stole the money. Now, he goes on to ask, how do you know he embezzled money from the Mongols? In September 2021, after he was removed from president. After the trial, the court says. Oh yes, 2021. So he had to be removed before the Mongols found out anything was going on. Well, he lied to you, Your Honor. He lied to you under oath. He did? Tell me about that. That always gets interesting. Did he have a lot of money? Oh, here we go with the money, boys and girls. And BOWTIE came out straight up. Yeah, he lied to you, Judge. He testified, and he did this to the parole and probation, and then later to you. He had us testify that we were receiving $40,000 a month. Judge says, right. That number is at a minimum of $120,000 a month that they were receiving. We did not know that until he was removed. And then all of a sudden, all this money was coming in without making any other changes. And that kind of put Yanni and him in a position, because right after that, the court says, now, as an officer of the court, when that representation was made to me, did you and Mr. Yanni know that the income was greater than the representation being made in court? So he wants to know, did they know about this? Because his ears perked real big, I hear, when he heard that amount. Now, it goes back to Yanni. That's what... Money is a big issue on this shit. And that's where I brought up my one thing, if, they were helping each other out with some money, you know what I mean? I don't know. I can't, I'm not insinuating, but... Now, Yanni goes, you remember in the video that the judge had made reference to, I don't know if it would help to revisit it or not. When Dave is talking with Ciccone, he says something to the effect, I understand the Hells Angels buried 3 more this past month. And then the question goes, did you consider that given confidential information by Mr. Centillion? And he says, I saw it as Dave admitting that the Mongols had something to do with it, which shocked everybody on National Geographic. It's like, dude, what the fuck you was doing, dude? Shut up! Now, let's go on. I wouldn't necessarily be shocked. I would be shocked that he had said it in such a way that it looked like he was giving Ciccone information. That's what was shocking, according to him. So, I want you guys to go ahead and download this information, because, as you know, we're at a 45-minute level mark, but I wanted to get it all in here. Isn't it interesting to hear all this stuff coming out? All this stuff is coming out, and there's still more stuff to come out on this. But I think the main question has to be, for you people that keep on saying, what does it matter? That he was in charge of running a defense strategy in a RICO case, and if he was having an improper relationship or whatever the hell he was doing, you can't do that, man. If that was the case, we'd really be screwed up in this justice system. But go ahead and download in the link in the description box. It will let you know where to go to get both files, the one I covered on part 1 and part 2. And of course, we're always going to keep covering this story all the way to the end. All the way to the end. Rock on.